Hi everybody, today I'm going to show you the third and final part on my video about how to use smart objects to better your architectural and interior photography. So, we have this photo. Just to go through the step by step, we have our exposure blending where I brought in a bit of the view, brought in the shadows, added two flash shots, help out. Brought in my lights, which I always like to bring in separate from the rest of the image. And now we get to the part which I would like to speak about. A lot of the time when we shoot photos, we will have brushed steel which has suffered with use. I learned this technique when I was working for an engineering and construction company. I would always plead to them. They'd send me off to shoot restaurants, and I would always say, as soon as you deliver the product, send me to take the photos. And they would always wait 3 months to send me to take the photos. Now you can imagine 3 months in an industrial kitchen is 20 years in a home kitchen, and everything would already be screwed up. And they would never clean things properly, so I always had to figure out a way of how to get rid of rust and dirt and streaks from the metal surfaces. So here I'm going to show you what I have done. Now there's just some of the basic cleanup that I did. Hold on, turn off the things. So it's just some taking out a bit of the some of the basic stuff. Here I did a bit of painting because I couldn't get rid of the power cord completely, so I just made it go underneath the couch, which was a bit more appealing. So what am I going to do to get rid of these streaks? Since I'm lazy and I don't like to give myself extra work, it would be quite a pain in the butt, quite a long process to come in here and use the spot healing brush or use content aware fill or try and use cloning to get rid of all of these streaks at once. So what do? I create a selection of the metal piece that I need to fix. Here I just have to make a combined layer, Control Alt Shift E. So I make a selection of the area that I need to correct. I'm going to copy this onto new layer, so Control J. I'm going to convert this into a smart object, because obviously these tutorials are about smart objects. As soon as I converted this to a smart object, I'm going to Control click the layer to load that layer as a selection. I'm going to create a mask. Now I'm going to come back to my layer. What am I going to do? I'm going to go Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. 400 pixels is way too much. I was using that for something else. What I'm going to do is I'm going to blur this until those streaks somewhat disappear. So in around 10, 20 pixels, I've already made those streaks disappear. Perfect. But now we have this blurry piece of metal, which is not what I want. What I want is a certain brushed steel look. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to Filter, Noise. I'm going to add noise. Here, Gaussian, I'm going to add quite a large amount of noise, about 4.87. So now I have noise. Now what am I going to do? I'm going to go to Filter again, and I'm going to go to Blur, and I'm going to go to Motion Blur. So I want this blur to be at a 90-degree angle, and now I can make that distance larger, make it shorter. Since it's brushed steel, I'm going to want quite a large distance. I'm going to go OK. So now this is no longer some blurry piece of metal. Now we have a bit of texture here. And what I'm going to do on top of that, I'm going to go to Filter, Noise, add just a little bit of noise on top of that. So around 0.75, around 0.8. And then I'm just going to give that a very, very light blur once again. Gaussian blur. Just a bit of blur. So now I've gone from that mess of streaks and weird stuff to this nice piece of brushed metal. Since once again I said I'm lazy, I will make this into an action, which I already have. So I just Control click, make a selection, Control J, and then I have my action here, which I go into. It's in Portuguese, but it says alisar, which means to smooth, and I have metals, and then I just press play, and I've made it so that there's stops along the way. So I have my first stop, which is at the blur phase, so I just choose the blur. I have the second stop, which is at my noise phase, choose the noise. Third stop for me to have my motion blur. Another stop just to give it a bit more Gaussian blur. Yeah, and a bit of add noise. So that is what I do to get rid of those awful stains on metal. I also use the same technique for when I have walls or ceilings that have bad drywall work. So we see that there's some weird textures here. So I've just done the same thing. I've made a selection of the ceiling. Instead of doing the motion blur step, I just take that step out in my action. I just do a Gaussian blur with a bit of add noise with an extra step of blur on top of that. So that just makes it so I quickly, lazily smooth out that uneven work of the drywalling. We just have to take care with these techniques is that when we have hard shadows. So if there are any hard shadows, I will try and not select those hard shadows. Or sometimes, if I need, I can reintroduce those hard shadows with a curve or any other type of technique that's adequate. So, the other thing I did here, obviously, I did a bit of color correction. That's too orange for my taste, so I just took a bit of orange out with a curve. And here I put it in some lights that were not very well put in by the company who did the lighting. So that's that. That is my third and final part of how I use smart objects to have a more efficient workflow inside of Photoshop for my interior and architectural photography. I hope this helps you guys out. If you have any suggestions, please get in touch via the comments or even sending me a direct message here through YouTube. And I hope this helps you guys out. If you feel obliged, you can like, comment, subscribe to the channel, but don't feel obliged. Hope you guys have a great day.